Yo, what's good, YouTube? It's your boy Amir Views here. We back on another video, man. We back on another banger. We back to open the mind. Y'all already know what time it is, man. Listen, bro, we back with another deep video, man. I took it a little break. My last video was maybe a week ago. I haven't checked, honestly. It was the last video I did talking about Vegeta and the law of detachment. But I've really been locking in. I've really been making a game plan, entering 2026, entering the quote unquote new year. Well, we know what a new year is. It really is spring, but entering this new calendar year, I've really been locking in, reading more. I'm almost done with The Courage to Be This Light. And I just ordered another book to start reading when I'm done with this, because I'm really close to being finished with it. And that book, the title, the background of it looked good. I had to cop it, man. It actually just got delivered today. So we will be seeing a new book review coming soon. You know what I'm saying? Once I start reading it. But today we're going to be tapping in with the Courage to Be This Light. And it was really a quote that the philosopher was talking about. And if you guys been following this book series, the book review with The Courage to Be This Light, it's a whole conversation. This whole book is basically just a conversation between the philosopher and a youth. You know what I'm saying? A young person. I'm pretty sure it's a male, though. I'm not gonna lie. It doesn't really say, but I want to say 100% sure it's a male. Just the way they talk and their dynamic and stuff like that. But that doesn't matter if it was female or male. What matters is we're gonna talk about this. So there was a quote. Oh, and before we get into this video, I just want to say I appreciate all the support with the videos. I'm looking for a way to make some shorts. So if anybody's out there and wants to make shorts for me, you know what I'm saying, is good at making YouTube shorts, hit me up, because there's a bunch of websites that I've been using, but they're not really like the greatest. Like, it's kind of it's honestly more expensive than what I'm getting. I'm spending more money than what I'm actually gonna get, and I don't really like that. But that's besides the point. Let's get straight into the video. So I'm gonna read this quote. I wrote it down in my notes. This is my notes right here. Actually, I might have leaked YouTube videos, but I want to start writing them down on my piece of paper. But I need a new book, because I have a book that's just for journalism. But I write my notes down when I think of an idea. I write it down, man. So this was a quote that the philosopher had quoted from. Let me pull it up right here. I'm a little rusty, y'all. From Alfred Adler. He referenced Alfred Adler a lot in the book, because Alfred Adler was a psychologist in the late 1800s, and he passed away in 1937. But he quotes him a lot in terms of psychology of people and how we move and how we think. And this is in the 1900s, and it still applies to this day. But he had quoted this one quote by Alfred Adler. And I'm gonna read this, and we're gonna dap into it. We're gonna start opening the mind. And I quote: "The important thing is not what one is born with, but what use one makes of that equipment." End quote. I'm gonna read that one more time for the people in the back. And I quote: "The important thing is not what one is born with." So it doesn't matter the circumstances and things like that, but what use one makes of that equipment. Let's dive into it. Now, what do I think Alfred Adler meant in that quote? Honestly, I'm gonna give you two things that I think he meant. The first thing is circumstances, being born in different circumstances, right? We're gonna touch the first half of the quote, and then the second half of the quote later in the video. The first half of the quote, I'm gonna read it one more time for y'all. "The important thing is not what one is born with." Boom, we're gonna stop right there. The important thing is not what one is born with. So you could be in a rough family, you could be in a single parent household, you could be we can go to the extreme, we could be an orphan, your parents abandoned you, right? Or you could just be raised by your sisters, or you could just be raised by your grandparents or your aunts or your uncles, right? It doesn't matter what you were born with, because that doesn't determine who you are as a person, right? It doesn't. You can be born in a two-parent household, right? A healthy family, you know what I'm saying? You got the father present, you got the mother present, you have siblings, right? You got 2-3 siblings, you have a healthy relationship, right? in terms of as a family. And you could still go out there in the world once you hit 16, 17, you hang around the wrong crowd, and now you stuck behind bars or you 6 feet under. It gets that extreme, but it doesn't matter what you were born with. I just told you that could happen to anybody, bro. These bad outcomes in life where you start resorting to robbing, stealing. I don't know why people say robbing and stealing. Is it robbing and stealing the same thing? Like if you rob a grocery store, isn't that the same thing as stealing? Y'all let me know. Maybe I'm tweaking. But let me get back on track. Yeah, you can still, bro. You can still hang around the wrong crowd, and now you hooked on drugs. Or you can get with the wrong women, and now you got crazy allegations. You might not even did nothing. We just saw an example with Talil and that Jordan girl, bro. She is a demon. I watched that Spiritual Soul video, bro. He broke it down perfectly, bro. That is a succubus. But I'll probably talk about that later. I actually do want to make a video on that. But y'all let me know if y'all want to see that. But anyways, yeah, it doesn't matter what you're born with and the circumstances you're born with, because you can still end up as bad or good. But you know that we know that's subjective, and that's another topic for another day. But what I'm trying to say is, if you are out there, right, and what I think Alfred Adler was trying to say is, it doesn't matter what you're born with, gang. It doesn't matter, bro. You could be born rich, poor, middle class, extremely wealthy, or that's about it. Rich, middle class, extremely wealthy, or poor, right? And all four of those things doesn't mean rich. If you're born rich, that doesn't mean you're gonna have money when you're 25, because you could have blew all your parents' money, right? If you're poor, doesn't mean you're gonna be poor when you're 25, because you could have built something for yourself. You could have had businesses. You could have hustled, and now you got millions, right? That you wasn't born with, right? It doesn't matter if you're born with insane wealth, nearly $billions of dollars worth to your family's name. You could fumble that whole bag when it's time for you to inherit that family money, and now you're looking down, and now you only got 20K in the bank compared to 500 million in the bank. It doesn't seem like it's a drastic change, but it is, right? It is. So it does not matter what you're born with, bro. I was born with a 2-parent household. Father was always present, mother was always present, right? My sisters grew up with they grew up with my aunties and uncles and stuff like that, my grandparents. I didn't have that, you know what I'm saying? I was born, and then we moved down here, and then, you know, my grandparents and my aunts and uncles are still in New York, so I didn't really get to see them as much as my sisters did. They lived up there, but they lived in the same city as them, right? So, they got that, you know what I'm saying, the granddaughter, grandparent experience. I didn't really get that, right? And that doesn't change the fact that I still love my grandparents. I still call them. They still call me. I still love my aunts and uncles, right? But somebody with a different mindset, they could be like, oh my God, you know, my sisters got to have that experience. I'm not going to talk to my grandparents, or I'm not going to talk to none of my relatives at all, because why my parents didn't keep me up there with my, you know what I'm saying? I can have that different mindset. So it doesn't matter what you're born with, right? You can still come out as a great person or a bad person, subjectively, right? I had to take a little bit of water. Shout out my girl for getting me this water bottle, y'all. So yeah, I honestly think that's what he meant in the first section, because it's I always think about that. I'd be like, yo, like how, like Michael Jordan kids, for example, right? Michael Jordan, even if you haven't watched a second of basketball, you know who Michael Jordan is. Why? Because of the Jordan brand, Jordan sneakers, Jordan sweatpants, Jordan water bottle, anything Jordan. You don't even have to watch basketball. You know, hey, that's Michael Jordan. He's bald headed. You know what I'm saying? He had the tongue out. He was dunking on dudes. You can know that just from scrolling on TikTok. You see a TikTok and that's Michael Jordan. If you scroll on TikTok and you don't know basketball and you see an editor, Dennis Rodman, you're probably not going to know who Dennis Rodman is. That's probably a bad example, because Dennis Rodman was he was a superstar off the court. Rip Hamilton, bro. If you don't watch basketball, if you're not a basketball head, bro, you're not going to know who Rip Hamilton is, bro. I'm not going to lie. You're not going to know who he is. It's just that simple. But Michael Jordan, let me get back on track. Michael Jordan, right? One of the greatest basketball players, if not the greatest basketball player of all time, one of the greatest athletes of all time. He had sons, and one of them didn't pan out in the league, and the other one, he spiraled out of control, and he took the wrong path in life. When you think about that, you're like, bro, how though? Like, how did they fumble that bag? Like, their father is Michael Jeffrey Jordan, one of the most popular people of the 21st century, one of the most accoladed field athletes of all time. Like, how do they end up not being like their father, right? Or not even like being, they don't even got to play basketball, but at least being, you know what I'm saying, being great, I guess. Why is that? The choices that they make. It all comes down to the choices that you make, bro. And I don't even mean to say a lot. I said it one time. I'm proud of myself. But it doesn't even matter about the circumstances, bro. It matters about the choices that you make, bro. Right? It matters about the choices that you make. Now, there's obviously more to that story, but we're just looking at it as a surface level. We're looking at a surface level. If we're looking at it as a pyramid, we're looking at the bottom of the pyramid. That's surface level, bro. They just took the wrong choices, right? They just took the wrong choices. And I think one of his sons is like a CEO or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. But I know one of them was like on drugs and stuff like that. And it's like, bro, how? Like, people thinking like, how, bro? You're Michael Jordan's son. Choices, bro. Choices, dog. It just comes down to choices. Honestly, look at LeBron James. Look at his sons, right? Let's look at his sons. Bronny James, and you got Bryce James. Bryce James is playing basketball. I think he's at Arizona right now, and Bronny James is in the league on the Lakers. Now, we know that most of that is all politics. We're not going to talk about, is Bronny James, is he worthy to be in the NBA? He's not a bum. I don't think he's a bum, because when he plays in the G League, he be dropping like 30 points. He be getting OZ. You know what I'm saying? So he's not a bum for sure. But I don't think that he should have got basically handed an NBA job. I feel like he should have worked for it a little bit more, but that's just my opinion. Who am I? I'm just a mere views, talking to a freaking screen. Who am I to judge, right? He made it. He's in the NBA. Salute to Bronny. I wish him none of the best. When he got drafted and people were hating like, oh my God, this dude is a terrible basketball player, I was like, all right, let's let it roll. Were there politics involved? Did LeBron pull strings and make sure that no other team drafted Bronny James so he can come to the Lakers and play with his son? Absolutely. Would I do the same if I had a son and he wanted to play basketball or football? Yeah, I want to play with my son, bro. If my dad was in the NFL and we were playing at the same time, yeah, I want him to be like, yo, let me play with my pops. But that doesn't mean that we got to trash the dude. Like, he's not a bum. I'm telling you, like, when they put him down in the G League, he be balling. It's just, it's different from playing in the NBA. And he get a little couple buckets and stuff like that. But choices, right? No, LeBron could have did all the politicking he want. He could have forced Adam Silver to be like, yo, get my son in the league. I don't even care if he go to freaking Delaware State. You're gonna get him drafted. He went to USC, but you're gonna get him drafted. He still could have took bad choices one night, right? I'm not even wishing none of this on him, but one night he could have been partying, happy I'm LeBron James' son, and something bad happened. Now his whole life is ruined. Choices. He obviously made right choices to stay on track, train, eat well, take care of his body, and he was able to even compete at a college level, and now he's competing at an NBA level. So you got to tip his hat for that, bro. You got to tip Bronny's hat for that. Let alone politics, he made the right choices, right? Was he in a good circumstance? Yes, I'm LeBron James' son. LeBron James is almost nearly a billionaire, right? One of the greatest players of all time, one of the most popular players of all time, right? But he still could have took bad choices to not be in the position that he is, playing with his father, playing for the Los Angeles Lakers, playing in the NBA. Only like 5% of players make it to the NBA out of high school, bro. So he obviously had to do something to get to that point. Now, was there politics involved? Absolutely. I'm not denying that. But I'm saying you have to look beyond that. You have to look at the choices that he made, because he easily could have took bad choices where LeBron wasn't. Now he doesn't have no power to force Bronny in the league, right? Because, bro, we not letting your son in the league, bro. He out on the street doing whatever, robbing, stealing, doing crazy things. You know what I'm saying? We're not finna let your son in the league, LeBron. Get up out of here, bro. But he made the right choices. So now his pops gonna be like, yo, get him in the league, bro. Now he in the league, he doing his thing. What best of luck to Bronny. So that's the first half, bro. That's what I think. That's what I took from Alfred Adler's quote right there, where it says the important thing is not what one is born with. It's not. It's honestly not important. I feel like it's very irrelevant what you're born with. The choices that you make. Does it make it harder if you're born into a poor family? Yes. Does it make it easier when you're born into a rich family? Yeah. But it's yes and no to both, because honestly, you see the spoiled kids, they trust fund babies, and now they spoiled, they getting Lamborghinis at 16, they ain't earn nothing. So now when they get in the real world, and the real world is not gonna care what your dad and your mom made, they're gonna expect you to do your stuff on your own. And now they're failing at their jobs, you know what I'm saying? They're failing in their careers and things like that. But if you're born in a poor family, now you're like, you got that drive. Look, bro, I couldn't even eat some nights. That's why I want this so bad. So it doesn't really matter where what you were born with. It doesn't matter. It all comes down to choices, in my opinion. This water hitting different, bro. I gotta get that water, bro, because I be yapping. Now let's get into the second part of the quotes. But what use one makes of that equipment? And I kind of was talking about it eventually towards the end with the Ronnie situation. But the second part of the quote is, but what use one makes of that equipment. So, like I said, with the let's take example for you're born to a poor family, right? You're born to a poor family. You don't know when your next meal gonna come, right? You know what I'm saying? You got a roof over your head, but it's super, super tight. Super, super tight. You and your siblings gotta share plates. Y'all gotta share food. You know what I'm saying? Your parents are doing the best you can, right? You could be in that situation in a poor family, right? And now say you want to be, I'm not going to even take sports. Say you want to be an artist. You want to be a painter, right? You want to be Basquiat. You know what I'm saying? Say you want to be an artist. You want to be a painter. You want to be an artist. Every time you get that paintbrush, you dip it in that paint and you start painting on the canvas, you're going to think, yo, bro, me and my siblings used to have to split McDonald's, bro. Me and my siblings, even though you shouldn't eat McDonald's, but you get what I'm saying. It's not, you get what I'm saying? I do this to myself. I'll be talking to myself like I'll say some lower self stuff like eating McDonald's, and I know it's like that we shouldn't eat McDonald's, but then my higher self is like, no, but you shouldn't eat it. But it's like, chill, twin. I'm trying to make an example. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, I don't know. If y'all understand what I'm saying, or you talk, or your lower self and your higher self be talking to each other, let me know, bro. Anyways. When you're painting on that canvas, you're thinking about them nights you saw your mom cry. You saw your mom wishing, praying to God, like, please, I just want this light bill paid. I just want my kids to eat, right? You saw your dad stress after work, and he making minimum wage, right? He making basically just enough to pay the rent, but he ain't got nothing to get you new clothes, get you new sneakers, right? Get you a new coat for the winter, some shorts for the summer, right? Every time you paint, you're going to think about those times, and that's going to drive you and push you to be the greatest artist you can be. And now you're in a position to, you're making money off your artist, off your painting. You selling it for $250K. You selling it for 15 bands. You selling it for 1.2 million. And now you'll never have to worry about that again. That's what the second quote is telling me, right? Is what you make of that equipment. Okay, you were born into a poor family. Use that situation as equipment. Use them tools. Use them nights that you was up wishing that you had the money to do something, and now use that, put that core drive into your passion, and now that's gonna make you money, and now that's gonna have you in a situation or a position where you'll never have to think where my next meal is coming from, right? So that's the poor family example. The rich family example, right? You're born rich. You a trust fund baby, bro. 10 years old, bro. You was getting all the Legos. You was getting all the Lego sets, and I was getting Lego sets at 10 years old, but I was getting the $10 Lego, the $15, the $35 Lego sets. Not saying I was poor, but I wasn't getting the $350 Lego sets. I wasn't getting the Millennium Falcon, you know what I'm saying? The AT-ATs that's going for like $250, you know what I'm saying? You could be a trust fund baby. You could be born rich, born to a rich family, and now when it's time for you to get a job, or your parents is like, you know, son, daughter, you can't just live off us all your life. We're gonna be here. Don't get us wrong. We're gonna be here. but you can't just keep using our money. Why don't you go get a job? Fast food or something like that. Now you get a job. You're crying, I don't want to get a job, but you get the job, and now your work ethic is so low because you ain't have to work for nothing. You ain't have to work. You ain't have to take out the trash and do the dishes to get a sweet treat. You ain't have to take out the trash and do the dishes to go to the mall and get a new sweatshirt. You know what I'm saying? These are things that I had to do. I had to earn the things that I have now. I got the money. I'm getting OZ. But I'm only doing that if I earned it, right? I'm only doing that if I earned. I'm buying all this stuff because I feel like I've earned this. I feel like I've earned the ability to buy all this stuff, bro, because I've been working hard, bro. Haven't been working the hardest I can? Absolutely not. But I am. I'm locking in. That's why I'm giving you guys these high quality videos, and I hope you enjoy them. But yeah, so now you don't even have that work ethic. You don't even have that drive, that motor to work hard, even if it is in a fast food restaurant. Trust me, I've worked jobs that I don't like, but I still was probably the hardest worker there. On everything I love, I probably was the hardest worker there. There were times where I didn't want to go to practice, but I still worked the hardest I could. And on the team, there was basketball teams that I was like, bro, I do not like this coach, bro, but I'm gonna work my hardest. And if you don't reward me, shoot, man, it's gonna hurt for sure. But I can't say at the end of the night I ain't giving my all, right? I ain't giving my all. So that's an example of you're using the equipment. Like, born into a rich family, you're using that equipment for bad though, or not in a good way. Because instead, if you were born in a rich family and you use the equipment right, you're like, dang, my parents worked hard for this money, right? You know what? Let me do the same thing. Let me use some of the money that they're giving me and fund this business. Let me use some of the money that they're giving me and fund my passions. Now I can double, triple, quadruple, quintuple my money. And now we got generational wealth on top of my parents' money. And now I can spread it down to my nieces and nephews, my brothers and my sisters, my friends and my family. You know what I'm saying? So that's another way you can use the circumstances that you was born into and do something good with it. Do something productive with it. So it doesn't matter if you were born rich, middle class, poor, bro. It's what you do. It's the choices that you make, number one, and it's what you do with them circumstances. You're not your circumstances. You're not the environment that you were born into. You only become that if you embrace that. You only become poor-minded if you think you're poor. Now, obviously, there's people out there that's poor and doesn't have a lot of money. So you're probably like, Amir, how do I not think that I'm not poor? You got to look at it. You got to look at it at a bigger picture. And it's harder. It's easier said than done. But you got to think, bro, I never want to feel this feeling again. So I'm going to use that feeling to drive what this is or that or this and that. You know what I'm saying? So hopefully that's making sense. Hopefully that did make sense. But that's all I got for you guys today. I'm about to record another video right after this. So if you see the same t-shirt, I'm probably just going to take my do-rag off. If you see the same t-shirt, I don't care, bro. I might put my zip up on, but I'm hot. I don't care. We on the grind, baby. Recording 2 videos in one day, and we editing them in one day because we get nosy. You know what I'm saying? Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did, smash that like button, hit the subscribe button if you are new, turn on post notifications so every time you know I go live or upload a video. And join the Bright Mind community, bro. We bright minds around here, bro. We open the mind around here. We don't go deep, we go wide. We don't go wide, we go deep. My bad. I said it backwards, you know what I'm saying? We don't think on a surface level, we think on the deep level. The depths of the ocean, where the creatures, you didn't even think creatures was on the earth. That's how deep we go when we talk about this, when we open the mind on the Bright Mind and the Amir Views channel. But I love you all. Stay positive, stay safe, stay disciplined, or you will be disciplined. Turn them L's into lessons, turn them lessons into W's. I see you guys on the flip side. Amir Views is out. Until next time, until we open the mind once again, Amir Views is out. Nigga know he ain't got no paper. Like, why even go to the mall? Yeah, nigga be stacking his paper. Now all of a sudden I'm tall. I get racks every motherfucking season, my nigga. That's why I drip in the fall.